Tad, good to see you. Thanks
Jim,
for the time. You have nothing else to
you.
do anyway. And sit here and talk, so it's fine. Des Moines Register puts out this incredibly tough editorial today.
Yes.
They endorsed Hillary Clinton,
Yeah.
saying this thing was a debacle, the count, an embarrassment for Iowa. We need an audit. We need all this kind of thing. Your guy doesn't seem to be making that big a deal out of it. Why isn't he?
Well, first of all, when I read that editorial this morning from a very respected newspaper that endorsed Hillary Clinton, I too was surprised that they would be so strong in what they said. The reason we're not making a big issue out of it, I guess, number one, we don't want to be like Trump and what he did with Cruz. Yeah, but he's alleging fraud and all this other stuff. We're making no such allegations. Here's what we're doing. That decision came about very quickly. There's a difference of 4 state delegate equivalencies with 1,406 delegates at stake. Our campaign on that night got information that there were as many as 50 caucus sites where there were some issues. And so we said, we'd like to do something about it. The state party said, no, this is it, final decision. And what we decided to do, and what we're doing right now, is going to every one of our precinct captains, over 1,600 of them, asking them what happened, recounting things. We believe mistakes were made that night.
Is it possible you won the popular vote? I know it's about delegates. It's possible Sanders won the popular vote.
It is possible, and we'd like the state party to release the popular vote numbers. They've done it in the past, by the way.
Speaking of count, they actually count ballots in the real way here in New Hampshire. Tuesday night, your guy wins. He's still got a pretty significant lead, even in this UMass tracking poll, still 20-some points. The Clinton campaign and the pundits say he's the hometown guy. He's from a neighboring state. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
He almost, essentially, it's like winning Vermont.
Well, there's a lot of spin here. There's no doubt about it. I mean, listen, here's our side of the spin story if you want to hear it. This is the 4th Clinton for president campaign in New Hampshire. They go back to 1992. She won the New Hampshire primary the last time she was here. She defeated Barack Obama. So I think to say, well, Bernie has an incredible advantage. And, I've worked for candidates who are neighboring state candidates, Mike Dukakis, John Kerry. And you do get a big advantage, particularly from Massachusetts, where 25% of the voters live in the Boston media market. Now, when you're the Vermont candidate, like Howard Dean, or the Maine candidate, like Ed Muskie, you don't necessarily get as big an advantage here in New Hampshire.
We had a lot of phone calls on the radio in Boston Public. I love Bernie Sanders, they say. Totally pie in the sky stuff. We're never going to have single payer. We're going to undo Obamacare. It's imperfect. We're never going to be able to tax those big boys. We're never going to be able to break up the banks. So it's a great story, but it's just completely unrealistic. So?
It's completely unrealistic as long as we have the current political alignment, and that's why Bernie's campaign is about changing it. Okay? The whole purpose of this campaign is to bring people into the process who are left out and left behind. Young people who don't vote in enough numbers, and that's why Republicans dominate congressional elections. Independents, bringing them to the democratic process. And I think beginning here in New Hampshire, we can demonstrate to the Democratic establishment, who, by the way, one day we would like to join us in this campaign, that he can be a stronger general election candidate. And particularly, and we're already beginning to see this, and this is a big thing for me, that voters, incomes under $50,000 a year, whose participation rate is much lower than higher income voters, bringing them in large numbers into the process. If we can do that, we can change the calculus of politics, and then things like that are possible.
Last thing I want to talk about is we just talked about the young voter. Everybody has memorized the age gap out of Iowa, 70 points. 17 to 29. By the way, Barack Obama only won that age group by 43 points in 2008. Pretty significant gap amongst older voters for Hillary Clinton, though not quite as large. Here's my thesis. Old voters are used to disappointment. The ups and downs of Clinton, they'll be there. Young voters, when they have their first serious disappointment, your guy loses South Carolina or he loses Nevada, are they going to be there or are they going to go home as quickly as they came to the campaign, the disaffected, idealistic young voter? You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, and I don't think they're going to go home. I mean, listen, I think what Bernie is inspiring in these young people is real. I think he's going to be able to pull them out the way Barack Obama did in 2008. When Obama won Indiana and North Carolina in the general election in 2008, those are 2 states that hadn't been targeted by Democrats in a generation. I worked on a lot of campaigns. I worked on a campaign with John Kerry where we had a running mate from North Carolina. We couldn't target North Carolina because when we polled it wasn't there. And, what Obama did in those 2 states, he won one age group, 18 to 29-year-olds in Indiana and North Carolina, and he won those states. So I think that's what Bernie is capable of, changing the calculus of American politics by bringing people in, particularly young people.
Thanks for your time, Ted.
Okay, Jim, great to be with you.